Welcome to Everything's Not Black and White with your hosts, Lala and Brian.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. We're very excited. We have a special guest today, and he knows that some of life's hardest moments don't always come with a roadmap. For more than 3 decades, attorney Tad Nelson has helped individuals and families navigate divorce, custody disputes, and some of the most emotionally challenging seasons of our lives. But beyond the legal side, he's seen firsthand what resilience looks like when people are forced to start over. So today we're talking about relationships, conflict, healing, and how to move forward when life doesn't go to plan. Please welcome Tad Nelson to the EMBW podcast. Welcome, Tad.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, guys.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you. Yeah, thank you so much. So I would really like just get into the heart of what you do so our, listeners really know it. So how would you say that people survive one of life's most difficult transitions without losing themselves in that process?
Well, not all do, to be completely frank with you, but I think the ones that do, realize that, it's weird to just talk in cliches, but really there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And, I remember a movie that, an old Neil Simon, chapter 2, and the last thing, the guy's talking about, finally realize what you want to do with your life. You want to start almost immediately. And I think just knowing that is enough to motivate the people and to carry them through the hard times, is to realize they have to have that feeling that they know things are going to get better, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that they will be rewarded for the journey.
Yeah.
I think that's imperative.
I think you're so right, Tad, and thinking about you have so many years of experience, over 30 years, helping people through those really tough moments, those divorces and the custody disputes and other family challenges. When you've gone through those experiences with your folks, because I always say, especially as an attorney or somebody who does provide service, you walk alongside people with that. But what has those experiences taught you about how people react or can survive during those vulnerable moments, not even after, but right in the middle of it?
Well, most of them are reaching down deep. I'm not a crazy religious person. I grew up Catholic, but I see a lot of them lean on their religion, which is great. I see some of them lean on their friends, lean on their family, and the ones that have the support. It's, it really is a microcosm for just life problems. The ones that have the support network are the ones that usually do better. The ones that don't have the support network, much like the people out there in the rest of the world, they start turning to alcoholism and other bad habits. And, that is going through a divorce and starting to date alcohol, that is a horrible combination. And like you were talking about, you talked about a workout, a 30-minute workout. It is shocking what you can do, the little things, like McKidry said in that graduation deal, make your bed. It's literally, life is as easy as that. You wake up every morning and make your bed. You have now set yourself for a good day. And it's so much more important when you're dealing with adversity, and that's what the people in the divorces have to do with. And the ones with the good habits and that stay away from the, bad habits are the ones that can usually navigate it a little bit more cleanly.
Yeah, for sure. I remember even as a young person when my mom and dad got divorced, and I remember, even back in the day, they would always say, well, you just stay together for the kids. And I said, well, if you're arguing all the time and things are not working well, that's not healthy for the kids either. So I think it's one of those things that you talk about, how sometimes people just get into routines and they don't think they can break that routine and say, yes, you can make a different choice. And it really can help you get out of a funk.
So it's funny you say that. One of my favorite things to tell people was, a lot of people, they're on the fence about, hey, should I, my youngest is only 12. That's only 6 more years. And the thing I preach, and I could be 100% wrong here, because what? I've done this long enough. I feel comfortable with my opinions, but you know what? I'm the first one to tell you not everything I think is 100% right. And people are entitled to think different things. But I always stress, a divorce is going to be tough. But wouldn't seeing mom get a relationship with a man that respects her and treats her like a goddess and does all the right things, doesn't that just benefit that child 10 times more than what the hurt of leaving?
Yeah.
There are so many more positives sometimes, not every time, but more times than not, in situations. Like you said, do we want a child to sit back and witness a loveless marriage where they don't talk, they don't get along, they don't even like each other? Of course not.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that happen so many times. But and I can tell you, my mom was so much happier after
I see.
the
There you
divorce,
go.
and we felt the benefit of it because I've been married now 18 years. That my mom didn't have that longitude, but I was able to see how she made herself happy, and then I was going to make sure I had a partner that was also going to be taking care of himself, and then making sure I was happy too. So that's kind of the partnership part of it. So I can say you can survive after divorce and it be a good thing.
I agree with you totally.
Yeah.
I see it every day. Thank God.
Yeah, for sure. So, our the name of our title of our show is Everything's Not Black and White. And I think it's so interesting because, we talk about the complexity of any life and any relationship. But have you seen cases where there really wasn't a clear, I would say, villain or hero of the story? That there were just two people who were hurting and just struggling to move forward?
Oh, every day. I don't want to, stereotype anything, but what I see a lot of, are the people that got married really young when they weren't fully formed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they get formed, they realize that they have nothing in common. They have no common likes. No, they were like best friends when they were 15 in high school, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no bad guy here. There's no good guy. There's just two people that literally looking at life from a different lens. And sometimes that works out. People are mature enough to get through it, and sometimes there's just such a hatred from it. I will tell you my favorite case ever, and this has been over 20 years ago. I had a couple that was just like that. They were best friends from like they grew up together. Their families knew each other. They probably knew each other when they were 6, but they became like best friends when they were like 13 and 14. They ended up getting married before they, halfway through college. And they just realized, you like one thing, I like another. He literally bought a second house less than 2 blocks away. They had twin boys. They got a divorce when the boys were like 12. The boys literally riding their bikes around the neighborhood would go eat dinner based on what the two couples were cooking. I mean, it was the best relationship. It was
Oh,
if I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it. But it was the most perfect breakup I've ever seen.
that's really cool. That's a very cool
And
thing.
the two kept going to the same church. I mean, it was a one in a million.
Yeah, it's really nice when you can make that happen. It doesn't have to be like you said a good guy or a bad guy in any of that. It's like, hey, we just grew apart. That's what
Yeah,
happens a lot when
it
you're young.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what happened to me. We got married in the early 20s and just grew in two different directions. I wanted to go to school and get my education and do better for myself. And my old partner, my ex, wanted to still go hang out at the bars and pubs. And it's like we just kind of grew in two different directions. Doesn't mean that either of us were wrong in our ways, but when you're not moving forward together, it makes it really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny you said the bars. I'd say the two biggest things that I've seen people grow apart with is one of them wants to keep partying and the other
Mm-hmm.
one grows up faster. I mean, we all grow up at our own rate. One day it's weird with guys. I don't know what it's like for women because believe me, if there's a person in this world that doesn't understand women, put me at the head of that list. But I do understand guys, and it's bizarre. One day we just wake up and we're grown up. And then you look around and go, what the hell happened to me?
Mm-hmm.
All these things, all these things that used to be important yesterday are no longer important. And it happens to like every guy. And the other thing that I see that really changes people and really grows them apart is I see a lot of times when, especially down here in the South, where one person gets uber religious and just
Mm-hmm.
can't pull the other one with them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's another one that doesn't necessarily make the split up, toxic, but it can, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
One of the challenges that I had when I went through my divorce, and I asked for the divorce, but do you see with your clientele with men, because we're men, we probably know better what men do here, but I know for me,
Absolutely.
I checked out like 2 years before I ever asked for the divorce. So there was this long span of me kind of emotionally working through the process. And then when I got to her and like, hey, I'm just not happy this isn't working out. I think we should go our separate ways. Then it was like raw and in a moment for her. Do you find that with men that a lot of men kind of baggage up their emotions and don't communicate real well?
Absolutely, I do. And I could probably, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I guarantee, I mean, I see so many men exactly like you. And the reason they're just afraid to say what they want and say what they're feeling and why they're ready, and you know what? Not one man, when you go, well, you wanted a divorce 2 years ago, or you knew you wanted out of it. Why didn't you say anything? And they're either like, well, I couldn't, I mean, I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't know how. I mean, there's so many reasons, but like you said, totally checked out and just hoping that it just, maybe if I check out enough, she'll wake me up one morning, said, I need a divorce, and that is what the man's expecting or hoping for, maybe. I don't know, but it's exactly what you just described. A man checks out, no ifs, ands, buts about it. He wants out of that relationship, just doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of time just hemming and hawing about that. But I know when I got into my second marriage with my wife now, and it's a wonderful marriage. But the one thing I really worked hard on is trying to make sure we communicate, because I lost that in my first marriage, and ultimately that's what led us down that path. So I think communication for those out there listening is key to a healthy marriage. Yeah, even if it goes down south or it doesn't work out, like still communicating through the process is key.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, another cliche, honesty is the best policy. Show your hand. If all the cards are on the table, it's going to be a better relationship. Now, if you're a snake and you're pulling nonsense and cheating or doing things you shouldn't do, obviously you're not going to put your cards on the table. But by and large, couples that keep their cards on the table or have a better relationship. There's so many couples that, and little things like, I'll keep my checkbook, you'll keep yours. They don't share money. Both have lock codes on their phone. I mean, just all that stuff just builds a moat between them, man. I see it so often.
When you're working with clients, do you see the clients in different like age ranges or groups of tenure? Because one of the things that I know that really shocked us a couple years ago, we had a good friend and her parents had been married almost 60 years and they got a divorce. And that boggled my mind beyond anything I could even understand. Like, 60 years of their lives was literally 3 times the amount of life. They got married in their 20s and they were almost in their 80s.
Mhm.
So it just kind of shocked me. But I'm more curious around the kind of clientele you see. And what do you think something like a 60-year marriage, what would be the quote unquote final straw after you've waited that long to be with somebody?
We just finished one, but it was an odd one, and it was over 50 years of marriage. But what was funny about this one was they both they both had been married before and got divorced really quick, but had children. Because most 80-year-olds, you look back, they probably had children a lot younger. I'm a 60-year-old man. I have an 8-year-old daughter. That's my only child.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think that I was born, I'm the mayor of Crazy Town over here. Um, but most 80-year-olds, they had children very young. I've got clients that had children at 16, 17, 18. But this couple that just got a divorce, we just probably finished this probably at the beginning of the year. And what I saw in this one, and you wouldn't see it with couples that were only together, but it was their children, the dynamic of the children and the grandchildren and all that pressure. It's funny, the outside stuff that can affect a relationship. The ones, like, again, I'm going to go back to the ones that are a good cohesive unit that can really have whatever the world throws us, we're going to attack it together. Those people can usually repel the outside trauma. But the ones that I had, it was the husband, he was just getting so much from the mother's oldest daughter from the first marriage, and the grandchildren, the expectations, and where the money was going. And I hate to see when money becomes an issue. That
Yeah.
I understand money's important, but it just breaks my heart when money is what makes people divorce.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. I always tell people all the time, it's either it's something emotional, like, cheating, emotional, physical, like cheating, or financial. Those are two of the biggest things I've seen with most of my friend groups when I've seen them get married and divorced, or married multiple times and divorced multiple times, or however many times it needs to happen, right? Because it's per person.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you totally. I'll be a vote on what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tad, I'm just really curious. How did you become a lawyer? First of all, did you always think about when you were a little boy you wanted to be a lawyer? And then this particular genre of being an attorney. We'd love to hear more of your story.
I always knew I was going to be a lawyer from like 10 or 11, just from being around my dad. And my dad was a longshoreman.
Oh,
He got
yeah.
her on the waterfront and he thought they took advantage of him. And he'd always say, these lawyers are screwing me, Tad. You need to be a lawyer. And by the time, I was 10 or 11, I'd heard that so many times. Yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer. Well, because my dad was my king, so
Mm-hmm.
whatever would make my dad proud, obviously. But by 11, I had already bought the story. So I went off, and I didn't know what kind of lawyer I was going to be. And I went off to University of Texas, and, I was in the business school. I figured, what sounded interesting was doing estate planning and taxes and all that stuff. I was good with numbers. Went off to law school, got my first job in a big old probate firm in downtown Houston. And within about 6 weeks, I wanted to just jump off the building. I was so bored. And
Yeah.
and that's a true story. And I'd always known the elected DA in Galveston County, who was a good friend of the family, and he always told me, Tad, you know, if you ever needed. So I called him one night and I said, Mr. Reno, this is Tad. I said, I really don't like what I'm doing up here, you know, in a probate firm. I want to be in the courtroom. And he said, like I said, he goes, you always have a job here. So he goes, the next one that opens. So one opened in like 10 days. He called me back and said, one just opened. Can you be here in 2 weeks? And I walked in there, quit my job, and became a prosecutor for about 3 years. Then went and opened my own firm June 1st of 1994. That's how long I've been doing it. It's weird once you're representing criminal people, you kind of naturally have the opportunity to be around divorces. And so we kind of started picking them up, you know, and it's by doing criminal in family. It's funny. I always say those are my major two kind of things. We do some personal injury, but the main two are criminal and family. And both of those, you know, I find people in their darkest, and my job is to bring them to the light, you know, on both of those.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. It's funny. I have a lighthouse tattoo. It was my very first time I got when I was 21 years old, and I always said that I wanted to be the light and beacon to help people get through the dark times. So I love that. That's a really cool way to think about it, sir. So good for you.
It's just, but it's so right on. And I tell you, that's kind of changed my life because, you know, when you're young and you're smart and you're arrogant and you're again, I mean, I'm a 6-year-old man with only an 8-year-old child. So you can see how I ran my
Yeah.
practice. I was here to make money. I was here to work hard and make this great firm and be this great lawyer. And, you know, when you're young, your priorities are all out of whack. And as you old, in theory, if you're doing it right, you become like wine. You mellow a little bit. You become a better vision of yourself. And then I fell ass backwards into the 8-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, one of the best things to ever happen to me, especially with somebody that's that motivated, that, you know, directed at being this great lawyer and doing all these things. I mean, much like Roadrunner, when you see that screeching halt that Roadrunner does when he lets Wile E. Coyote run by,
Yeah.
that's your life at 52 years old when you have a child, you know. And you know what? It might not have been the softest fall ever. You know, it wasn't like I landed on a cushion or anything, but you know, once you get used to it, and you guys have children, I mean,
Oh yeah.
it was perfect. I'm lucky. Whoever said you're going to have a child, because I would have gone through my whole life, but you know, like I said, it was kind of an accident, and you know, best thing to ever happen to me. It's just changed my life, and I still work as hard, but now I work with more of a purpose. My
Yeah.
my purpose is to protect somebody else. You got to wish for everybody in life that at some point they love something more than they love themselves.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's a mic drop moment right there, Tad. I love that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This has been such an enlightening conversation.
And I applaud you because we're both 52, 53 years old. So about the same time you had your first kid. We're like on the
See?
flip side, and we're just enjoying life without kids right now. So
But there's really two situations here, and I can see it both ways. And like I have friends like you guys that had kids when they were young, and especially the ones that were lawyers that were doing the same kind of firm and working just as hard and just as good a lawyers as I am. You know, I've known these guys. These are good friends. And they'll just say, sometimes I'll look at them and I'll say, hey, I got to tell you how amazing you are. You know, the fact that you did all these things for this child while you were building this firm, you were still coming out occasionally with the guys and playing golf occasionally, but, you know, not as much as we were. But I really respect somebody that could do that. I
Yeah,
mean, that is amazing.
that's really
You
cool.
know, and that's what life's about. And see, but the other side of it is, and here's where I'm benefiting. You know, I'm like I talked about earlier, I'm more formed, I'm established, I'm
mm-hmm.
done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? You know, well, typically, you know, I think anybody at the age of about 5 never changes. But if you're at about 45 or 50, like you guys and me, you know, we're not going to change. We
Mm-mm.
are who we are. We've made our money. We've, you know, become who we are. But the one thing about having a young child now that I've kind of established, I can do more things with her. You know,
Yeah,
my little 8-year-old, she already has 24 stamps on her passport.
that's so cool.
And exactly. And I don't say that out of like, but the one thing that I'm most proud of about that is the more you travel, the more you realize the world is a really, really small place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if you're brown with black hair, black with brown hair, pale white with blonde hair from the Nordics. You know, we're all human beings. And I feel best that much like me, my little girl doesn't see color. I don't know where I stand on God, but I know there's something out there that makes you do right. But I just thank whoever that she doesn't, and with that said, in today's world, she's part of the solution, not part of the problem.
I love that. That's exactly right. And so thank you. Thank you so much, Tad. You are so full of life and energy and such a great perspective. And that's exactly the kind of guest that we love to have on our show. So we'd love to be able to, help support you. Is there anything that you want to promote right now? How can people get in touch with you if they need some of your services?
They can always go to their website, and it's an easy one, tadlaw.com. I'm on all the channels, all the social channels, and it's usually just Tad Nelson. I think one of them is Tad.Nelson, one of them is Tad_Nelson, but we're always out there at Tad Nelson. And I am writing a little book on criminal law, but it won't be out for another couple months. Yeah, they'll see it on the website if they check out there or check anything out. So thank you so much for letting me drop that.
Oh, no, absolutely. We're excited to have you for sure. Your voice was very needed today. And Brian, can you tell people how they can get in touch with us?
Yeah, you can reach us at EMBW Podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you'd like.
That'll be awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us today. And thanks again to Tad, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.